Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, now I'm muting everyone.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so uh, before starting, let me give a brief introduction. So I'll be taking your microwave engineering course. So my name is Dr. Tanvir, and part of your lecture of microwave engineering will be taken by me and Mr. Vasant Kumar. Okay, so I think all of you have got a course plan. Monday I have sent to team. So I think everybody has received that, correct?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Okay. Now, if you see this course, basically this course is a combination of many mathematical derivations and what you call field theories. So I consider that you might have studied field theory and transmission lines properly, correct? Tell, I have not muted anyone. Answer it. You all have studied field theory? Hello.
So the
Yes, sir.
transmission lines part was skipped, I believe, in EMW.
I think Matt Max you've
See, I have
done.
not muted. All of you can talk.
Sir, at
So
Max we have done field theory. I think transmission lines was skipped over for us.
transmission line was skipped over in the sense
We didn't
they
do
are
it.
not taught.
Yeah, we
Yes,
were.
sir.
Field theory you have done.
Yes, sir.
Electromagnetic field theory,
Yes,
time
sir.
varying equation, Maxwell equations and all.
Yes,
Yes,
that
sir.
part is then.
Yeah. Okay, not a problem. So bit of transmission line I'll what do you call teach you, because I cannot go back and teach everything, but whatever is required from microwave engineering point of view and whatever basic is there, I'll cover here, and the same thing will be covered in antennas also. So you don't have to worry about that. And regarding your subject is concerned, so you have to focus only on the things which are being taught in the class. In the class means online teaching, and the materials which I have prepared are in such a way that it is easily accessible in the net. That means the book which I'll tell you to refer, some research papers are there which I'll tell you to refer. So no need to worry, no need to panic. Now, coming to my portion of your study, I'll be taking your entire microwave engineering. Microwave engineering, since it is divided, the subject is divided into two parts: microwave as well as antennas. So bit of antenna I will teach you, entire microwave I will teach you. No, the major portion of antenna will be covered by some other faculty, that is Vasant Kumar sir. Since we have to divide the lecture into two equal halves, so he is more comfortable to take that particular portion. Now, so altogether I'll give you the brief introduction, what are the things required in this particular course, so that you will have a complete idea what you are going to study in this particular subject. In the starting only I'm telling you, no need to bother for your exam. Just learn from what you call concept point of view. Exam will be done very easily. Okay, so now I'll share my PPT and screen. If anything is there, you just let me know. Okay, shall I start?
Sir,
Yes,
can
sir.
you record the lecture, sir?
Yes, sir.
You want?
So can you please record the lecture?
You want me to record the lecture? Okay. Anyhow, whatever I'll present, I'll give you what do you call this PPTs and all. So whatever is there with me, you can access it. Not a problem. Okay.
Okay, sir. Okay, sir.
Yeah. So are you able to see?
Yes, sir.
It's visible, sir.
Is it visible? Yeah. Now let us start. So basically this is microwave engineering which will be taken by me. So these are your course detail. This is a 4-credit course, okay, where we require 48 contact hours. So evaluation pattern will be same as you are. Evaluation pattern will be same. Assignment will be of 20 marks. Then you will be having test 30 marks, 2 tests of 15 marks each. Then you will be having end semester of 50 marks. So I'm your course coordinator, and these are the course material which will be required for you throughout this particular subject. So class notes, first thing I have mentioned, whatever we are teaching online, that is more than sufficient. Then for your antenna, which is other part of the syllabus, will be covered from Balanis. Okay. Now, then for microwave devices, you have book named Samuel L. Liao. Then another a research paper is there. That is mine research paper only. 4th and 5th are my research paper. You have to go through those research papers to cover a bit of antennas portion, fractal antennas, and other millimeter and microwave antennas. So you have to go through 2 research papers. Then 6th one you will be having this millimeter wave communication system. This is the last portion of your syllabus that will be covered by this book, Kai Cheng, Huang, and Wang. So you can download all these things except first one. First one I'll give you because this is the class notes, and except first one, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, all are easily accessible in the internet. These are free PDF. You can download and you can study by yourself also. Questions will be maximum from your notes, and the portions are taken from this particular book paper. Is it? Now, coming to introduction part. So basically, first we will describe what is microwave engineering. See, basically in this microwave engineering, we'll be studying about different types of microwave devices. Then how do we communicate at this particular frequencies? Then what are the available devices are there through which we can why this again sound? Just wait 1 minute. Yeah. PPT is visible to all of you? Is PPT visible to all of you?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay. Now, see, first we'll see where particularly these things, electromagnetic, what we are going to study lies in the electromagnetic spectrum. So a pictorial representation of electromagnetic spectrum is shown here. Basically, this electromagnetic spectrum consists of entire range of electromagnetic radiations. Okay. Now, what is radiation? Radiation is nothing but it is the energy that travels and spread out as it propagates. Okay. So here you can see there are different waves are there, radio waves are there, microwaves are there, infrareds are there. First thing starts in the electromagnetic. First thing starts with your radio waves, then it starts with microwave, infrared, visible light spectrum, ultra wideband, X-ray, and gamma rays. So here basically we are concerned with this particular microwave. Entire analysis of this will be done here in this particular subject. So as you can see, this wavelength, the wavelength of microwave is of the order of 10 to the power of -1 to 10 to the power of -3. That means bit longer wavelength as compared to your infrared and visible spectrum. So obviously, once you calculate at this particular frequency wavelength, your frequency, you will come to know what is the minimum frequency requirement to operate this particular microwave devices. So what is the wavelength now? Wavelength is 10 to the power -1 to 10 to the power of -3. Typically, it ranges between this. So how do you convert it in terms of frequency, or how do you find like what is the minimum frequency required to operate a microwave component or microwave device? So we have a very fundamental equation. What is that equation? Lambda is equal to C by F. Okay, so lambda is here. How much? 10 to the power 1 to 10 to the power of -3. It ranges from 10 to the power -1 to 10 to the power of -3. So C is nothing but speed of light, 3 into 10 to the power 8 meter per second. Here lambda is also in meter. So basically, if you calculate, you will get around 10 to the power of 9, that is 1 gigahertz to 10 to the power of 11. So 100 gigahertz. That means this much minimum frequency is required to operate your microwave devices or components.
అదే ఎన్సీఆర్టీ టెక్స్ట్ బుక్ ఇదే అదే టెక్స్ట్ బుక్ ఐపీ తెలుసా అదే ఇంకా నిజం చెప్పాలంటే ఇంటర్మీడియట్ చదివిన yeah.
Okay. Okay. So we can easily we can easily calculate the frequency at which this microwave devices operate. Okay. Now we'll go to next slide. What are the various properties of microwaves? So these are the various properties. Hello. Are you all listening?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Just wait 1 minute. One of your classmates is calling. Hello. Yeah. What? Yes. Yes. What not? Yeah, I have added to everyone. What is your mail ID? I have just now added, man. You just tell your spell it. Spell it. Spell it. Spell your mail ID. Okay, fine. Somebody can share this link to your friend Safan Mohammed. I have added 3 times to him, but he is unable to get it. Any CR of A, B, C, D section, please share with him. Okay, shall I go ahead now? Hello.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, so we'll now see the properties of microwave. These are the main properties of microwave which are listed below. So before that, have you understood this electromagnetic spectrum of microwave? So what is the minimum frequency requirement to operate your microwave? It is nothing but it ranges from 10 to the power of 9 to 10 to the power of 11. That means it ranges in gigahertz. 10 to the power 9 to 10 to the power of 11. So the shape, the size of this microwave wavelength is generally of the size of ant, which you can see here. Okay. Now we'll see the different properties of microwave. So these are the different properties which I have listed here. So basically you can see microwaves are the waves that radiate electromagnetic energy with shorter wavelength. So microwaves are not reflected by ionosphere. You know, there are different types of layers are there: stratosphere, mesosphere, ionosphere. So basically these particular microwave signals are not reflected back by ionosphere. Now one thing you have to understand here, that microwave is limited for point to point communication. That means it cannot travel larger distance because you have high frequency range, and high frequency range you require a lot of power to transmit that particular signal. And in entire communication we have restrictions of power, as a result of which this particular microwaves are limited only for a desired range of communication. Hardly you can tell, it may be limited to 48 or 50 kilometers, not beyond that. Why? Because you require directional antennas in order to transmit this particular signals, and those antennas should be at line of sight. Line of sight means at the same level, transmitting antenna and receiving antenna are of same height, such that there should be no disturbance between transmitter and receiver. No disturbance, if I tell, suppose one antenna you mount, another antenna you mount at some distance, so there should be no obstruction between those antennas. If anything comes in between them, then this microwave signal gets affected. So in the starting only I can make clear this to you: microwaves are limited for short range of communication. Okay, so this you keep in mind, and now you see the properties. See, third point, you can see the same thing. Microwave travels in a straight line. That is nothing but, straight line means line of sight, and are reflected by the conducting surfaces. Microwaves are easily attenuated within shorter distance. Microwave currents can flow through thin layer of cable, obviously, because it is nothing but a radio frequency signal, electromagnetic signal. Now, what are the various advantages of microwave? See, as the first and foremost thing is that it is operating at gigahertz range. So once you see this, it is operating at gigahertz range. That means the bandwidth of the signal is high. If the bandwidth of the signal is high, another terms, what do you mean by that? If the bandwidth of the signal is high, it means what? Transmitted. Correct. So the first and foremost thing is that you have larger bandwidth. Once you have larger bandwidth, you can accommodate more number of data rate. That means more messages can be transferred. So nowadays many new modulation techniques are being coming at microwave frequencies, generally for 5G communication. See, 5G communications are possible for lower frequency as well as higher frequency. So higher frequency in the sense I'm talking about millimeter wave range. Smaller frequency is just at the frequency of your ISM band, 6 to 7 gigahertz or sometimes 3 to 5 gigahertz. But at higher frequency, generally we take consideration of 5G, that means high data rate in the range of millimeter wave range, that is from 25 gigahertz to 300 gigahertz. So generally 5G are based on this particular notions of microwave. So because you have larger bandwidth, you can transmit large data rate. So, but in that simply you cannot transmit large data rate. You have different types of modulation schemes like orthogonal modulation, OFDM, orthogonal frequency division multiplexings are there, rather than your conventional modulation techniques. I don't know whether you have studied analog communication or digital communication or not, but little bit you have studied in basic electronics what is modulations. So different types of modulation schemes are used at millimeter microwave frequencies, which supports high data rate for this particular microwave signals. That is why the future, what you call 5G or 6G, 7G, whatever is coming will be based on these high frequency signals where it can support large amount of data rate. Okay, now another thing is that, so if it is at higher frequency, obviously you require more power. So more power means you require high antenna gain, because all these signals are electromagnetic in nature. It has to be traveled with the help of antennas. Now, once we talk about antenna at higher frequency, what does that mean? That means you want what? antenna of smaller size. Suppose see in your cell phones. Cell phones have antennas. Which type of antennas? Microstrip antennas, very small antennas, and it is capable of doing a number of works. So in that sense, if you are using microwave signal, then the constraint of antenna height is reduced. Why? You know the relation lambda is equal to c by f. Correct? No? Respond. Then I can understand you are online
Yes,
or
sir.
offline.
Yes, sir.
So lambda is, it is very, what do you
Yes,
call,
sir.
unconventional. May I don't know like how you are understanding. I'm giving whatever I have with me, but classroom teaching is something else. This we have to teach in this pandemic situation. Okay, we'll make it somehow good. So see, if you are working at higher frequency, then obviously the best thing which you can expect from your antenna is that your size will be reduced. Microwave frequency, gigahertz frequency. That means size of the antenna is dependent on what? Wavelength. And you know that lambda is equal to c by f. That means as frequency is increasing, your wavelength is decreasing. That means the antenna which you are making is entirely dependent on antenna size, is entirely dependent on wavelength. That means if wavelength is decreasing, obviously the physical size of antenna will decrease. So this is the biggest advantage of microwave signal. So that's why it is mentioned antenna size gets reduced as the frequencies are higher. Understood? Okay, now see, as you have high frequencies, then the chances of getting distortion in signal will be more. That distortion in signal is termed as fading. This distortion in signal is termed as fading. Fading is nothing but the loss in signal strength of the transmitted signal. Why this fading occurs? See, when you are transmitting any signal from transmitter to receiver, there will be lot of disturbance. Disturbance means buildings will be there between transmitting and receiving. And now all of you imagine, I will bring back to you Manipal. Now you all are in class. Now one antenna is put at MIT ground and another antenna is put at Udupi. So in between Manipal ground to Udupi, there are n number of buildings, trees, hills. Correct? No. So once you are transmitting the signal, all this signal has to travel those things. It will go into building, then it will get reflected, or trees, it will get reflected, scattered, some powers will be lost. So that signal, after getting affected by all these scenarios, reaches to the receiver. Once it reaches to the receiver, obviously this is a known phenomena that with what strength you have transmitted this signal will not be having this much strength at your receiver. This loss in strength is termed as fading. Understood? So at high frequency, the chances of getting fading is more. So that's why this particular signal at microwave frequency get affected by fading. But you know one thing, as microwave signal supports line of sight communication, so the chances of getting affection from this effect will be slightly less. Why? Because it has to follow point-to-point communication. Like see, there are three scenarios, three modulation schemes I'll tell you. One is amplitude modulation, one is frequency modulation, and other one you take any modulation, single sideband modulation. So the signal clarity is better in which type of modulation scheme? Can you all tell me?
Frequency modulation, sir.
Yeah, this frequency modulation is nothing but FM, which you listen particularly song. Those who are in Delhi, Mumbai, everywhere, you are listening songs on FM. Why you are listening songs on FM with greater clarity? Because your frequency modulation supports point-to-point communication. That means antennas are very closely spaced with each other, such that it follows line of sight communication. As a result of which, the affection of signal from the nearby buildings or trees is reduced. As a result of which, you get better signal strength at the receiver and the sound clarity is very good, which is not the case in amplitude modulation or single sideband or double sideband modulation scheme. Understood? Understood or not? Hello?
Yes, sir.
Yes,
Yes.
sir.
Yeah. Now, we'll come to the next advantages. So it finds a very good application in radar systems, in what I call defense. All these things, satellite and terrestrial communications are based on microwave signals only. You have big dish antennas which are being transferred to your transponder of the satellites, and from there communication is established. As frequency is high, bandwidth will be more, which case increases the data rate of the communication. Okay, so as devices sizes reduce, since frequency is high, cost is also reduced. So you can tell that low cost miniaturized means small microwave components can be developed. So effective spectrum use you can use effectively the entire spectrum of the available bandwidth. You can deploy different modulation scheme, which in terms will give you better data rate.
Sir?
Yeah.
Sir, what is more antenna gain is possible? I didn't get it.
What is?
More antenna gain is possible. What do we mean?
More antenna gain is nothing but more power. See, antenna gain is always measured in decibels. Okay, antenna gain is nothing but the amount of power which a particular antenna is transmitting and how much it is radiated in its vicinity such that effective communication is established. More gain means more power is transmitted from the antenna. So for all microwave signals, we require high gain antennas because the frequency is large. So in order to radiate these signals, you require large amount of power. That means large antenna gains. So by default, if you are having large antenna gains, that means your signal reception will be better at the receiver. Why? Because it follows line of sight communication. You understand in some other way. So if your immune system is very good, you will be less affected by any disease. In the same manner, if the antenna gain is very high, it is very unlikely that the signal distortion or the affection of the parameter through the channel will be less affected, and good communication is established between transmitter and receiver. Did you get my point?
Yes, understood. Thank you.
Yeah. Next is disadvantages of microwave. Obviously, if you are working at high frequency, then the cost of equipment or installations will be high. Then it requires larger space, obviously, between different bands, because there are terahertz bands, ultra wideband bands. So this will interfere with each other. Electromagnetic interferences will be there within the vicinity of the devices. There are different handheld devices like WiMAX, W band, X band, defense bands are there. So the interaction between these bands may frequently occur with the transmitted microwave frequency, which may result in signal loss. So that is basically your electromagnetic interferences. So variation of dielectric properties. Dielectric properties basically refers to the material properties which actually the microwave devices are built of. So every microwave devices will be built of by using some dielectric substrate. With the variation in that substrate, different variations will be there with temperature, which tends to affect the signal propagations of microwave. Okay, shall we go to next slide?
Sir, I had one question.
Yeah, tell me.
Sir, can you again explain what exactly is line of sight communication?
Line of sight is nothing but you draw you do one thing. Wait, don't take control of my PPT, please.
Yes, sir.
It will be difficult. I'll share these slides with you, so no need to take this control, because it will be, I'm simultaneously allowing different peoples also, and I'm presenting also, so it is yeah. Now I'll tell
Sorry,
you,
sir.
you ask line of sight, no? Correct?
Yes,
Who
sir.
asked line of sight? Can you spell your name?
Sir, Preet.
Yeah, see, now I will draw here. Somehow I'm using pen, you can understand. See, this is your transmitting antenna. Okay, and Are you able to see?
Yes, sir. So I'm
Yeah.
able to see the
This
point.
yeah. This is your receiving antenna. Okay. Now the size of your this transmitting and receiving antenna, this and this, I consider lands to be normal flat. Okay, so this I am taking this as ground. Okay, I consider this as ground. Okay, to be flat, and the transmitting antenna height is say 2 meter. Receiving antenna height is also say 2 meter. Then the propagation is set to be between transmitting and receiving antenna is in line of sight. That is one definition. Another thing, both antennas are at same height. Understood? And there should be no disturbance between transmitter or receiver of whatsoever anything. Suppose here building came. This is a building. Okay, consider this as a building. Now your transmitter and receivers are blocked by this particular building. So what will happen? Signals will not travel in a straight line between your transmitter and a receiver. So this is called as NLOS, non-line of sight. So simply line of sight means there is no disturbance between your transmitter and receiver, straight line communication between transmitter and receiver. So either for this, your transmitting antenna and receiving antenna should be at same height, or if suppose ground variations are like this, then suppose if your transmitting antenna is here, then your receiving antenna, if it is here, then it should be of that much height such that this particular height is covered by this hill. So whatever may be the case, the transmitting antenna and the receiving antenna should receive in a straight manner this EM waves. Understood or not?
Yes,
this is
sir.
called
Yes,
as line of sight communication. Understood?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Sir, also one more doubt.
Yeah.
Said it is used in satellite and terrestrial communication.
Yeah.
But sir, you also mentioned that it is only for short distance communications. So, how does that happen? Like satellite communication takes over like hundreds and thousands of kilometers. Right?
Very good. So communication basically happens through what? Antenna, no?
Yes, sir.
Microwave signals, whatever microwave devices are there, it will give to your antenna. That antenna can travel it anywhere, no? It can send signal to space, no?
Okay, sir, but there still will be a lot of attenuation, right? Because you said
it is attenuated. Microwave signals are attenuated. You just go, will go slides by slide. There are certain losses in microwave communication. These are just few advantage, disadvantage. In further slides, you will come to know how many losses, how many types of losses are there. There are attenuation losses, there are return losses, there are coupling losses, there are isolation losses. Many losses has to be there, which has to be taken into consideration for a microwave signal. Since you are working at high frequencies, or such losses you have to take into consideration. Let me go ahead.
Okay.
Okay.
Yes.
Shall I move ahead?
Sir,
Excuse me, sir.
Yeah.
In this current slide, there is a mention that lower power consumption as signals are of higher frequencies. But you just explained that since microwaves are higher frequency, you need more power. So I am not able to understand.
More power to radiate the signal, man.
So this consumption of power is from the receiver side, sir.
Yeah, when you are transmitting this, you have to understand from, see, always you have to understand two things. When I am telling microwave frequency, you are working and you are transmitting, it requires large amount of power since you are working at higher frequency, but at the receiver end, it has to just receive. So it receiving means your antenna gain should be in terms of negative dB also, minus 2 dB, minus 3 dB, but your transmitting antenna cannot be in terms of negative. That means your antenna, which I am talking about, large power consumption from transmitting point of view, because you require a large amount of power to transmit the signal. But at the end, once you are consuming, once the receiver is receiving from the vicinity, it need not, that signal will consume large power and it will forward to your pre-processing process. It requires just a few dB of power to just attract those electromagnetic signal which is available in the vicinity. So this point, what you are seeing here is nothing but from receiver. I think you are mentioning about this point, no?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So this is nothing but the signal consumption at the receiver side. But in order to launch the signal, power radiation, you see this more antenna gain is possible. Why? Because you are working at high frequency. In order to do that, you require large amount of power to radiate the signal. Until unless this is done, this signal cannot be received at your receiver with lesser consumption. Any receiver, your minus 2 dB up to 3 dB is fine, but this is not the case when you are launching the signal. When you are transmitting your signal from your transmitter, PT cannot be in terms of this. Understood?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
You.
Okay.
Sir, one last doubt.
Now, disadvantage, I think I have taught you, no?
Excuse me, sir.
Yeah. Now, see, application of microwaves. See, I have given a very wide application of microwaves so that you can understand properly where and all it is required. I have made a what you call heading, and under that particular heading, many subheadings will be there. Like one, I have given full family name. In that, many different systems will be there, which will be utilizing this microwave signals. Okay. So it is self-understood. So first thing is wireless communication. Under wireless communication, you know, I assume you know what is wireless communication. If you don't know, please tell me. I'll just explain. Tell me, wireless communication. Should I tell you what is basically wireless communication?
No, sir.
Yeah. Okay. Wireless communication, basically, there is no physical connection. That means channel is wireless. It doesn't mean that you don't require wire for transmission and reception. No, that is no wrong notion. The channel between transmitter and receiver is wireless. That is nothing but wireless communication. So in wireless communication, we are nowadays using this microwave signals for long distance telephone call in Bluetooth, WiMAX application. Bluetooth frequency is nothing but 2.45 gigahertz. WiMAX operation, WiMAX operate at 3 different frequencies: lower WiMAX, middle WiMAX, higher WiMAX. Lower WiMAX operates at 2.5 gigahertz, middle WiMAX operate at 3.5 gigahertz, and higher WiMAX operate at 5.5 gigahertz with a bandwidth of around 100 megahertz in all. So under wireless communication, it operates all these things: outdoor broadcasting, transmission, all these things, remote pickup unit. These are self-understood. Personal communication system, all these are self-understood. Now, in electronics, you require switches, error-free switches at high frequency, phase shifter, which is used to change the phase of the signals at microwave frequency, like circulators, isolators, which you will be studying further. Then high frequency generation, tuning elements, Fractal diode, pin diode, all these things you require. Not PN junction diode I'm talking about. I told PIN diode. This is a microwave switch. So then electronic countermeasure system. In commercial uses, you have alarms, the garage door, police speed detection. These are self-understood. No need to just go through it. Then for navigation, you have global navigation satellite system. It's operated at a frequency of 1.8 gigahertz to 2 gigahertz. Then you have GPS. GPS is nothing but global positioning system, which operates at a frequency of 1.5 gigahertz. Then in defense, entire defense, you use these microwave signals, radar, sonar, all these things. Air traffic control is nothing but the plane ATC, through which this aeroplane communicate with that airports. ATCs are there. All those things are nothing but controlled by microwave signals only. Then in research applications, you have certain research application: atomic resonance, nuclear resonance, radio astronomy. These are self-understood points. Just go through it. Food industry, microwave, all these things. So shall I move to different slides? And then medical application, you have heartbeat, lung water detection, tumor detection. Nowadays, this medical application of RF microwave signals are used frequently, but at the same time, you have to understand that SAR rate, specific absorption rate, is very much required to study once you are utilizing microwave signal in medical applications, because it affects the human body over a larger extent. So if your specific absorption rate, SAR rate, is less, then you can utilize your microwave signal for all this medical application, heartbeat, lung detection, tumor detection, all these things. Okay, so this is just a basic of what you call your microwave signal or microwave communication, which you can tell. Now for all this communication, you require energy to be transferred from one place to another. So how you will do that? That has to be done by a transmission line. So you all were telling that this particular portion was not covered in your what you call field theory. Am I right?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So see, we have studied about microwave signal. Now this signal has to be given to antenna. It is what you call generated by a device or a component. That particular devices or component should transfer this particular signal to your antenna. Then antenna can transfer in terms of electromagnetic wave this particular microwave signals. Now, how to do that? In order to do that, we require energy transfer from one place to another. That is done nothing by using transmission line. So transmission line is nothing but which is used to transmit energy from one point to another. So transmission line could be anything. It could be your household wires, which is supplying presently from switchboard to your bulb. That wire is there, no electrical wire. That is nothing but a transmission line, single wire transmission line. So anything which is used to transfer your energy from one place to another can be considered as a transmission line. So there are different forms of transmission lines are there. And this transmission line, if you are flaring it properly, it becomes an antenna. So those who are living at what you call or in villages, some like I don't know whether you might have seen or not. Many village people, in order to access what you call their TV, what they do generally, they take normal electric wire and they flared at the ends. Means they reshape at the end of the wire and put it at their rooftop. Through that they can what you call catch the signals and it is fed to what you call TV. I think DD1 and all they used to see you using that. I don't know how many of you know or not, but through this particular transmission line, you can convert it in terms of antenna. 2-wire transmission line is fed at the ends, which acts as an antenna, basic antenna through which you can well receive the signals. Or sometimes in earlier days, if you remember, like your father's age and my father's age at time and all, there used to be a radio. In that radio, whenever match and all used to what you call broadcast, no, so sometimes commentary was not proper. So what my father and all used to do is that they used to tie one transmission line like normal electrical wires to some of the what you call wires which are there in our houses. So suddenly like wavelength increases, so the electrical dimension of the entire communication increases, which in turns gives the better signal reception, as a result of which we used to hear clearly what you call those commentaries and all. So these are just some examples of transmission lines which can be used to transfer the energy. This transmission line is used to feed your antenna also. This transmission line sometimes act as an antenna also. So all these things you will study in a particular, but for time being, you just understand transmission line is nothing but it is just used to transmit energy from one point to another. Understood? So there are various types of transmission line. You have 2-wire parallel transmission line, coaxial line, strip type substrate. This strip type substrate is basically you will study in antennas. This particular strip type substrate transmission line is used to feed the antennas. Basically microstrip antennas, all your cell phones which you are using, whatever maybe, whether it's Samsung, iPhone, anything, is using this type of strip type substrate line to feed your antennas. Then you have waveguides. Then waveguide is nothing but it is a hollow cavity which is used to guide the signal, electromagnetic signal. Hollow cavity, this hollow cavity, if it is of rectangular in nature, it becomes rectangular waveguide. If it is of circular in nature, it becomes circular waveguide. If this hollow waveguide is it cylindrical in nature, it becomes cylindrical waveguide. It depends upon the shape of the hollow cavity which is guiding your electromagnetic wave. Understood? Just a brief introduction, because more than this it is not required. I will teach you in such a way that you will understand the things without going into much complexity. Otherwise, there are many complexities in this. Is there? If you open the book of Samuel L. Liao, you will not understand what are the things there. So please stick to this class or PPTs. Nothing, no problem from starting till end you will face. Okay, now main parameters of a transmission line. See, transmission line is basically consisting of very important parameters, and in this transmission line all these considerations, all these parameters are taken corresponding to unit per length. If I am defining an impedance, it will be, or admittance per length, or resistance per unit length, capacitance per unit length. All these things are particularly defined with respect to unit per length because it is a distributed parameter. Now, so you pay attention to this point, main parameters of a transmission line. Basically, you will not require this transmission line in microwave. I will teach you in such a way. Basically, you will require just waveguide, one form of a transmission line, which you will well understood if you have studied or not studied. That is my headache. I will make you in such a manner that you will not feel that you have not studied your transmission line. So basically, resistance and inductance together are called transmission line impedance. And capacitance and conductance together for a transmission line is referred to as admittance. Now, what is resistance? This is a very basic question which everybody knows. Generally, it's used to offer a, resistance through which the transmission lines are made. So it is basically a material specification. Material specification means manufacturer specification, how he makes the transmission line, based on what material he uses. So based on that, this particular resistance is determined. So basically, obviously, it it dissipates the power in terms of what? P is equal to VI. So V is equal to nothing but I or I into I. That means I square R losses it basically gives. So whenever you are defining resistance for a transmission line, you have to define with respect to per unit length. Here resistance is resistance per unit length. Inductance is inductance per unit length. Capacitance is capacitance per unit length, because transmission line is a distributed parameters where resistance, inductance, and capacitance are all distributed over at one point of time, or at one piece of line. You cannot tell this is resistance, capacitance, or inductance. At single piece of time, there will be resistance also, inductance also, capacitance also. Okay. So this is the basic thing. This is resistance per unit length. Now second is inductance. I know, and before this, I should tell you, see, you know these things, open circuit, short circuit things, concepts, you know, no? Please respond.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Open circuit, short circuit thing, you know, because see, open circuit means what? There will be accumulation of voltage, correct? No? Open circuit means there will be accumulation of voltage. That means because of that accumulation of voltage, what you will get? Electric field you will get, correct? When there is a short circuit, what you will get? You will get the movement of charges. That movement of charges is nothing but current. And with that movement of current, what you will get? Basically, magnetic field. Based with that magnetic field, what effect you will get? Inductive effect you will get. All these things are basic. I assume you know all these things. So same thing in order to define inductance is being told here. So in a transmission line, just we consider AC only. So whenever current is flowing, it induces a magnetic field, and because of that, another wave give rise to electric field, which is perpendicular to both. If you see this diagram, always remember one thing: for an electromagnetic wave, there will be electric field perpendicular to magnetic field, or vice versa. Each support one another. One cannot withstand with other. So here, see, if you are taking a sinusoidal signal, see here, sinusoidal signal. So corresponding to this magnetic field, corresponding to this electric field, you have magnetic field perpendicular to it. This side also corresponding to this particular magnetic field, you have, electric field, you have magnetic field. Again, corresponding to this electric field, you have correspondingly magnetic field. So this correspondingly time varying electric and magnetic field give rise to your electromagnetic wave, which generally gives rise to your inductance, which is nothing but that electromagnetic force is generated, which generally give rise to what? Inductance. So this is represented as Henry, and again this inductance is represented as inductance per unit length for a transmission line. Now similarly, we have conductance, leakage due to the effect of leakage current between transmission line and the ground. We have conductive effect, and due to this there will be inverse phenomena taking place which give rise to your conductance, and this electric field which is accumulated between the conductor plates act as a dielectric medium between them, which in turn give rise to your capacitance. Again, here capacitance will be capacitance per unit length. Now another important parameter or another particular component which characterize your transmission line parameter is characteristic impedance. Characteristic impedance is nothing but it is the impedance by which every transmission line should be terminated in order to get maximum power at your output. That means what is basically characteristic impedance? It is nothing but, suppose consider a lossless transmission line where there are no losses. Then whenever you are transmitting any wave, for that wave going to the load, it does not get reflected back. That means complete particular signal which you are transmitting is transmitted to your load without any back reflection is nothing but the characteristic impedance of the line if you take voltage by current ratio. That is nothing but, so here it is given Z is equal to under root of voltage wave value divided by current value. That is nothing but Z0 is equal to, that is nothing but, let me take a pen, that is nothing but Z0 is equal to under root of Z by Y. Z by Y. Now Z is nothing but R plus j omega L, which is represented here in the next slide, and Y is nothing but G plus j omega C. So this is basically characteristic impedance is very important parameter, and it is the parameter if you are terminating any transmission line load, so it will give you maximum power. And it is always often said that your transmission line should be terminated at characteristic impedance in order to get maximum power, because it represents what you call the effective power flow over the line without any losses. So Z is nothing but R plus j omega L divided by j omega C. So if there are no losses over a transmission line, if the line is lossless, that means there is no resistance, no conductance. That means these two parameters become 0. R is equal to 0, G is equal to 0. Then this gets cancelled out and you have only this particular value. R is equal to under root of L by C, but this is only for your lossless line, please remember. So that's why there will be no back reflection from your receiver. So whatever power you are giving, it is capable of transmitting the entire power to your load. So that's why whatever is the characteristic impedance of a transmission line, if you are tend to minimize the reflection, try to take that particular line of the characteristic impedance of the line which you are using. It will minimize your losses. So this is a very important parameter. This is what is called characteristic impedance, which we will be using further.
Hello, sir.
Yeah, tell me.
Sir, what does it mean to terminate a transmission line?
Terminate means termination. Termination, what do you mean? Is normal, but termination means end. Suppose you have a transmission line, no? At some point of transmission line, what you will do? It will go and it will end up somewhere. Correct? No. That end point, suppose you consider a wire in your home. At present you are in home, no? Correct?
Yeah.
Yeah. So now consider the board, electricity board you have in your home. Switches will be there, no? Correct? Yeah. Consider one switch. That through one switch, wire will come out and the same wire will go to what? Fan, suppose I say. Correct? Now you understand the circuit properly. Yeah. Understood? Now you have a board. Through that board plug point, how your plug point and fan is connected of a particular, suppose you have a fan, this fan will have a switch, no? So this fan and this switch is connected by a wire, correct?
Yes.
Yeah. So this switch is acting as your source. Okay. So from this source, you are connecting what? Transmission line, that is nothing but electrical wire, and it is going to your what? Fan. So your transmission line end is what? Fan. That fan is nothing but it is acting as what? Load. So this particular termination of this electrical wire is nothing but your fan. So the resistance, the impedance, if it is matched properly with this transmission line, so you will be having maximum output. That means you will get good amount of current at your load through fan, and fan will give good air to you. So that is basically the thing. If it is matched properly, if your transmission line at the end of transmission line, if it is matched properly with the load, and the impedance of that load is the same impedance what is there in your transmission line is characteristic impedance. Suppose your characteristic impedance is 50 ohm, the line which you are using between fan to switch, and the load which you are using is nothing but fan. If the impedance of this fan is also 50 ohm, then you will get better output in terms of air. Same thing now you implement in electrical circuit. That means whenever you are terminating your transmission line, that means whenever you are putting the load at your transmission line, if the load impedance is matched properly with the source impedance or characteristic impedance, you will get better output. So always it is said in microwave or in transmission line or in antenna, always your line impedance, that means characteristic impedance, or your load, if it is terminated at characteristic impedance, it will give good output. Maximum power can be delivered.
Thank you, sir. Good.
Okay. Now go to next slide.
Sir, one more doubt, sir.
Yeah.
Sir, for example, a coax cable is rated as 50 ohm impedance, so that is its characteristic impedance.
Yes.
Okay.
See, normally characteristic impedance vary from 50 to 75 ohm. It is a very famous GATE question. If I don't know, you know about GATE, no? Graduate Aptitude Test in Engineering.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, it is a very famous question asked in GATE for coaxial cable. What is generally the characteristic impedance, or in order to get better power at the output, your load should be terminated at dash of the line, characteristic impedance of the line. These are very famous GATE questions. That's what, if you would have been in college, I would have given you a certain set of questions from microwave and which are been frequently asked in many technical competitive examinations like GATE, ES, PSUs, or technical companies which are coming to college. But anyhow, if I recall here, if you ask question, I will tell you. So not a problem. So basically that mentions your characteristic impedance. It ranges from 50 to 75 ohm generally, your characteristic impedance. So again, it depends whether you want a high loss, more impedance, or low loss, greater impedance. Accordingly, also characteristic impedance vary, but generally, ideally 50 to 75 ohm is considered to be the matched termination. Matched termination, again, you understood termination means what? So whenever you are coming back to college and you are doing any labs, microwave labs or communication labs, you will see small connectors will be there, tunable detectors will be there. They are all made up of 50 ohms. That means they provide, generally the coaxial cable and all supports a characteristics impedance of 50 ohms. So in order to match that, all these termination devices are being utilized of 50 ohms. So once you match it, there will be no back power reflection. Back power reflection means it is at perfect termination. Understood? Yeah. Okay. Because just 1 minute. I have admitted.
Sir, even a guy named Siddharth Shah, he's also waiting, sir. Somehow he got disconnected.
No, I have added. Just ask with him. Waiting in the lobby are Iman Banerjee.
Shivam Vijay, he said he's waiting. Shivam Vijay.
No, I don't see anyone here waiting in the lobby. I have admitted to everyone. Just ask him whether he has joined or not. So we'll take 2 minutes break because I think I'm continuously teaching you. We'll take 2 minutes break so that I can add everyone to this lobby. Suniri M. Shetty, I have allowed him. Yeah. Total 197 attendees are there at present out of 241 student. 198. Yeah, if you have any question, you can discuss right now. We are taking 2 minutes discussions. Anyhow, I am not muting all and we are discussing throughout. Generally, what other faculty do, they will mute everyone and then after certain slide they discuss, but here I am not doing that. We'll discuss and we'll go ahead because this is such a subject. Until unless discussion happens, we cannot tell anything. Ariman Banerjee also.
Excuse me, sir. Yeah. So can you go 2 slides back?
I'll go. Yeah, wait 1 minute. Yeah, which slide?
So the conductance one. The capacitance and conductance. Yeah. So one before this.
कौन power निकाल रहा है? Tell him not to talk. Yeah, tell.
Sir, in this, sir, it's being told that there will be a leakage current between the transmission line and the ground.
Ground, yeah.
So, yeah, it's only possible if the ground and the distance between those two is really less, right?
The distance between ground and transmission line is very less.
Yeah, only under this condition.
See, leakage current. See, you are whatever is the distance, whether it is less, whether it is large, it will create a leakage current. This leakage current, in the same manner which you have studied in your electronic devices and circuit or analog electronics, which you call same leakage current, no leakage current or reverse saturation current, which doubles at every 10 degrees centigrade. Same current it is. Same current, same concept here.
Okay.
It depends upon the designing of a particular engineer or manufacturer, how much based on the optimum result. Suppose somebody will design and it will try to match with 50 ohm line. There will be other constraint also. Signal space, sorry, device space is a large concern. You want to make miniaturized devices. Okay, suppose you take a cell phone. In your cell phone, a dedicated slot will be there for antennas only. Understood? And that dedicated slot will be of certain size only. You cannot increase beyond that. So once you are doing that, you are compromising on many things. So at the same time, what you have a challenge, you have to have a good antenna output also. Good antenna output means antenna should match also. At the same time, you should have less distortion and less interferences with nearby devices blocks also. Okay, in that case, when you are designing those devices, so it is sometimes based on the requirement, they may give little bit greater distance between the ground plane and the transmission line. Transmission line, nothing but conducting part and ground plane, small, sometimes depending upon the scenario, what their output requirement is there, what is their required output SAR rate. Based on that, they define. Sometimes it may be less, sometimes it may be more, but whatever is there, there is always a difference is there, whether it is delta difference is there, which tends to cause a leakage current, and this leakage current give rise to your conductance, which in terms, again, nothing but it gives accumulation of voltage, which tends to create an electric field and act as a parallel plate capacitor between ground plane and this, and which gives rise to your capacitance. So always when you study, I think Smith chart you have studied or not? Smith chart in your field theory.
No, sir, we have not studied field theory.
Smith chart you have not studied. How it is possible?
Sir, we were last semester.
Because of that, I think you are having this question, because their Smith charts consist of reactance circle, inductance circle, capacitance circle, resistance. When you are moving, you have to balance like this much capacitance. If you are reducing, then how you have to move to stabilize a particular circuit. But it is there, no, in your syllabus?
No, sir. We can do it.
That last part was cut off.
So we were
DMW.
Yes, sir. We had to skip it because no classes were there.
Okay, no problem. Whatever is the scenario, there is always, see in my slide, I will show you what is Smith chart. I think in my pictorial representation of slides, you can see, I'll show you in the starting slide. See here. Are you able to see this part? This is nothing but your Smith chart. This you are seeing, this diagram. Are you able to see?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes,
Yeah,
sir.
this is nothing but a Smith chart. Based on this, you define what should be the difference between your ground plane and conducting part, such that based on that your impedance matching vary, and you try to stabilize the circuit by adding capacitance or inductance in series or parallel accordingly. So okay, for timing, you understand that whatever is the distance between your transmitter conductor and ground plane, there will be always certain amount of distance, because you cannot superimpose both of them, otherwise there will be no leakage, there will be no what do you call that, radiation. Radiation generally occurs from your fringing field. So if there is nothing between your conductor and ground plane, there will be no fringing field effect. Because of that, there will be no radiation, then entire device is not operating. So always there will be some differences. Okay, shall we move to next slide? I think nobody is waiting in the lobby, no? CR, please answer. Hello?
Sir, one student called Aditi Naik is waiting, sir.
They are coming and again they are leaving, or what?
So because some network problems are there, so they're
no, I have a lot.
coming back.
Just ask with him. I have a lot. Okay. Okay. Now, the next thing is impedance matching. It is same. Impedance matching is nothing but how you are replacing your load with your transmission line is nothing but impedance matching. I think you have studied in your networks. Correct, no? What is impedance matching, maximum power transfer theorem, all these things. So whenever your load is matched with the source, then the maximum power transfer takes place. Same thing few minutes back I told you, if you are terminating your load with the same impedance as the characteristic impedance of the line, then you will get maximum power at your output. So this is nothing but impedance matching. Now, very important points I will tell you what is basically impedance matching. Suppose this is a device. Now suppose if you are transmitting any power, say suppose this is your input, and this is your output put. Understood? So suppose you are transmitting any power, say 2 watt power you are transmitting. Now if this is considered to be as load, correct? No, output is considered to be as load. Now if this particular load is perfectly matched with this particular source, this is your source. So what will happen? Whatever 2 watts power you have given, it will transfer completely at the load, 2 watt. That is called as impedance matching or perfect impedance. Now if it is not matched properly, what will happen? The power which you are transmitting, some power will come to it, a portion of the power will be transmitted and a portion of power will be reflected back. So this reflected back power is to be minimized as much as possible. Understood? If your transmission line is not matched properly, there will be back reflection from this load, which will affect the device, which you should avoid as much as possible. So when you have a device which is perfectly matched between your load to source, then maximum same whatever you are giving here, same will be transferred. That is called as ideal impedance matching, perfect impedance matching. But if your load is not completely matched with the source, then in that case this reflection will occur. So you have to, for a practical circuit, there is no perfect impedance matching. Some reflection back will be there. So you have to design your circuit in such a manner, then you should minimize this particular back power. So this is basically your impedance matching. Whenever your source and loads are matched together, maximum power can be transferred and you will get maximum power at the output. That is ideal case. Practically it is not possible. Understood? That is basically your impedance matching. No, reflection coefficient. Same thing which I am just now I explained you. Reflection coefficient is nothing but same. You have a two-port device or any device input you are giving. If this load, this is load, this is source. If input, suppose this is your input you are giving. If this load is not matched, if load is not matched with the source, then what will happen? It is going in this direction. A portion of the power will be reflected back. This is IR. This is reflected back power. So this particular phenomena is termed as what? Reflection coefficient, which is denoted as rho. See, here it is denoted as rho, but in many books it is being represented as gamma. Please note this. So please note this. In many books it is represented as gamma. In some of the book it is represented as rho. So you can use either of this. Either you can use why I have given mode, because we'll be using positive value of it, because strictly speaking reflection coefficient is complex in nature. Why? Because it will be having some magnitude when it is going, and when it is returning it will have magnitude as well as phase. So it is a complex quantity. So I am giving mode so that I can represent in terms of positive value. So generally we represent by using rho or mod of gamma by reflection coefficients. This is nothing but reflected voltage divided by incident voltage. Same thing, whatever you have given to it and what is coming back. For a good circuit, this should be as low as possible. Now I am going to ask you one question. Be ready to answer. Now suppose you have a device. This is the source of a device and this is the load of a device. Now for an load to source, if load is completely matched with the source, what will be the value of reflection coefficient? Tell me.
Sir, it will be
Sir,
zero.
ideally zero.
Ideally it will be zero. Correct? No.
Zero.
There will be no reflecting back of power from this side. That means ideally if load and source both are matching each other, that means this condition is called as perfect matching condition. Understood? So under perfect matching condition, what is the reflection coefficient? I am representing by gamma, or you can use rho, anything. So for a perfect matching load, what is the value of reflection coefficient? 0. Now suppose this is first case. Now second case, if I consider, if load is not matched completely with source, then what is the value of reflection coefficient? What is the value of reflection?
1.
It will be 1. Why it will be 1? Whatever power you are giving to a device, suppose you are giving 2 watt to this load, this is your source, the entire 2 watt will be what? Reflected back. That means what is the percentage? That means 100%. For a completely mismatched load and source, perfectly mismatched condition, the reflection coefficient is what? 1. So from here you get to know what is the range of reflection coefficient. Can you tell me?
0 to 1.
It ranges from 0 to 1. 0 means perfect matching is there. 1 means complete mismatch is there. Understood? So this is a very fundamental interview questions a technical company asks from this particular transmission line. For a perfect matching load, what is the value of reflection coefficient? For a perfect mismatch load, what is the value of reflection coefficient? And in GATE generally they ask what is the range of reflection coefficient. Sometimes they will remove the mode, sometimes they will give the mode, and in that sense you can tell. Otherwise it will be from -1 to 1. Correct? If I remove the mod, please answer. Hello?
Yes, sir.
Yes,
Yeah.
sir.
So generally, if I'm not giving mode, it will vary from -1 to 1. If I'm giving mode, it will vary from 0 to 1. So generally, this type of question is asked, crucial type question is asked in GATE. So generally, you see it varies from 0 to 1 in a normal sense when you are giving magnitude between perfect matched load to perfect mismatched load. This is a very important parameter for a transmission line. Based on this, you have reflection coefficient and VSWR. So I think reflection coefficient is clear for all of you. Now next slide is your VSWR, voltage standing wave ratio. Okay, here they have defined using S. Many book generally they use VSWR as it is. Understood? It is same as your S which they have represented here. Understood? So voltage standing wave ratio is nothing but C. Suppose this is your source and this is your load. So this is your source and this is your load. Now you have transmitted a signal, suppose like this, towards your load. Understood? The direction of this is input end, this is output end. So through this you have transmitted your signal. Now understand properly. If this load and this source, if load is equal to source, then this signal will what will happen to this signal? It will move out like this. Correct? No? Understood? Whatever you have given, it will move out like this. But if this load and source is not matched, what will happen? It will go here. It will reflect back. It will reflect back. It will reflect back. So this is back signal. This is back signal. This is reflecting back from your load. So the difference between this point to this point, transmitting wave and reflected wave, is nothing but what? VSWR. That is nothing but Vmax divided by Vmin. Obviously this is min, this is max. This standing wave is called as voltage standing wave ratio. Opposite of this is nothing but what? Current standing wave ratio. I think it is clear. I think it is clear. If it is not clear, please tell me right now.
Sir, please can you repeat once more?
What should I repeat?
Sir, the whole thing. Your voice
Okay.
got disturbed.
Okay. So see, this is source and this is your load. Okay, I'm explaining once again. This is source and this is load. Now suppose if your load and source is completely matched, and then what will happen? Whatever signal you are transmitting, whatever your signal you are transmitting from source to load, it will move properly ahead from this load also. Understood? If load and source is completely matched. Now, if load and source is not matched, what will happen? The same signal which you are transmitting from source to load, it will take what? Back step, and it will again come back to what? Source. This is reflected back signal. Understood or not? This is reflected back signal. If your load is not matched with your source, then what will happen? A standing wave pattern is created. See, here max, here min, here max, here min. So this standing wave pattern Vmax to Vmin is termed as VSWR. Understood?
Sir,
Understood? Yeah.
is there interaction between the standing wave and the incident wave?
Yeah, there will be interaction, no?
So the
interaction in the sense what you are asking?
Interference.
Obviously, it will be there, no?
Yeah, so
but phase will be
standing
different.
wave ratio, like, okay, so for the standing wave ratio, we take the values after the interference, right? Or of the reflected.
Yeah, correct. And it is not always undesired. It is desired sometimes. See, in your mobile phone, you have this type of visualization, no? Correct, no? Towers are being represented like this, no? In your mobile phones.
Yeah.
This is nothing but VSWR, man. So sometimes it is used to tell the strength of the power. If this is there in your cell phone, that means good standing wave ratio is there, which captures large amount of power. If it is less, your signal strength is weak. Sometimes it is useful, and it is used to denote the signal strength on your mobile phones. So now, as we have seen for reflection coefficient, its range, we have to find the range of this VSWR also, where to where it varies. Now, mathematically, your VSWR is given by this formula. Wait 1 minute. Mathematically, your VSWR is given by using this formula. VSWR is equal to 1 plus rho. Rho is nothing but you can replace by gamma also. That means VSWR is equal to 1 plus mod of gamma divided by 1 minus mod of gamma. Now see. Now we will see two conditions. Perfect matching condition. For perfect matching condition, what is the value of reflection coefficient? Perfect matching condition means load is equal to source. What is the value of reflection coefficient for this case? Reflection coefficient is 0. Now corresponding to this reflection coefficient, what is the value of VSWR now? 1 plus 0 divided by 1 minus 0. So what is the value of VSWR under this condition? The VSWR will be what? VSWR is equal to 1. Now, second scenario you consider. When there is perfect mismatch. In this case, what will happen? Load is not equal to source. What is the value of reflection coefficient? Value of reflection coefficient is what? 1. Then in that case, what is the value of VSWR? VSWR will be what? Infinity. VSWR is infinity. 1 plus 1, 1 minus 1. 1 minus 1 is 0. 1 by 0 is nothing but infinite. That's why this range is given here. Yes, see. So that means for perfect match load, your VSWR will be 1, and for perfect mismatch load, it will be infinity. That means VSWR will never take the value 0. It will always vary from 1 to infinity. So voltage standing wave ratio and reflection coefficient both are opposite to each other. Reflection coefficient varies from 0 to 1 under perfect match to perfect mismatch condition. VSWR vary from 1 to infinity from perfect match to perfect mismatch condition. So this is the theoretical value. Now practically for all the devices, because we have to be more practical in studying. So in practical scenario, what is generally in your cell phones, the transmission lines are there. Generally, what is the acceptable limit of VSWR, which is what you call there in your mobile phone, the antenna is there. What is practical acceptable value of VSWR which is accepted? So the practical acceptable value of VSWR for any good microwave device designing is from 1 to 2. So practical consideration, this is a very famous competitive exam question. VSWR ranges from 1 to 2 in all practical devices like your antenna, which is there in your cell phones. It cannot go beyond 2. If it goes beyond 2, the signal distortion from that particular devices will be more. And
hello, excuse me, sir.
Yeah, tell me.
Hello, so like, could you add my friend? Could you add my friend Rajat Roy? Like he left the meeting due to some poor connectivity. So could you add him?
Arsh Tangri.
No, sir. Rajat.
He is not in the lobby. I have added everyone. He is not there. Tell him to call me. I will add him.
Okay, sir. This is
okay. Yeah, I'll go back to PPT then. Understood. So this is the variation of VSWR in a practical environment. It ranges from 1 to 2. Beyond 2, the signal becomes too lousy and it becomes unacceptable for consideration. So this is the usefulness of reflection coefficient and voltage standing wave ratio in a transmission line. So every transmission line, these two parameters plays a very important role in designing of any of the microwave circuits or antenna. You have to take consideration of these two parameters very carefully until and unless you get reflection coefficient acceptor value 0 to 1. See, whatever is the value of your reflection coefficient practically, I'll ask you one question. What should be the value of your reflection coefficient for a good practical microwave device? Suppose say antenna. What should be the best value? Under practical scenario I am talking about.
0.9.
More close to 0, 0.1, 0.2. Moreover, when you are going more close to 0, you are going towards more matching condition. So any practical devices which go more close to 0, so they tend to achieve good output power as compared to those practical devices which move away from 0. Reflection coefficient I am talking. When you are moving too close to 0, that means in the same manner your VSWR moving too close to 1. That means you are getting better power output. You are moving towards more matched condition phenomena. So all practical device should follow such notion in that your reflection coefficient should always move towards 0. By default, if reflection coefficient is moving towards 0, by default your VSWR will be close to 1. Once you are achieving from a practical device, this scenario, your practical devices are used in industry application or anything in the design. Understood? So now we'll go to next slide. Now, as I told you, for all microwave signals, the signal suffers from various losses, and these losses are basically due to impedance mismatch. And because of this impedance mismatch, we have different types of losses which are characterized as attenuation losses, reflection losses, transmission losses, return losses, and insertion losses. In this PPT, it is clearly defined what are these losses corresponding to their formulas. So just you go through it because there is nothing to explain here. Suppose see attenuation loss, a definition to the point it is given. It is nothing more to understand because whatever thing is there to understand, I have made you understand properly. That is reflection coefficient and what is standing wave ratio. These are nothing but just a glance. By default, if you read, you will come to know. So attenuation loss is nothing but these are the losses which occur due to the absorption of signal transmission. So basically it is given as attenuation loss in dB. All these losses we take it in dB value. So it is nothing but 10 log of 10 EI minus ER divided by EI is nothing but input energy, ER is nothing but reflected energy, and ET is nothing but transmitted energy. It's like just kid. What are these parameters? So, but you have to remember what are the different losses occur due to impedance mismatch. The first loss is attenuation loss. The second one is your reflection loss. A reflection loss is nothing but reflection coefficient only. Okay. So the loss that occur due to the reflection of signal due to the impedance mismatch of the transmission line is termed as reflection loss. Same thing. If your load and source is not matched properly, then whatever signal you are transmitting, it will revert back. That is nothing but reflection loss. And it is basically given as 10 log of 10 because you are calculating in dB. EI divided by EI minus ER. EI is nothing but input energy. In terms of EI, you can replace with PI also. PI is nothing but input power. So it depends how it is given in numerical. Sometimes it may be EI, sometimes it may be PI. That means you have to be a little bit careful. So both are nothing but both are one or the other same thing. Just representation difference is there. In some book it will be represented PI divided by PI minus PR. That doesn't make that formula is different. Both E and it can be representable. Then transmission loss. So these losses occur when your basically microwave signal travels through your transmission line. So basically it is given as input energy to the transmitted energy. That means input power to the transmitted power. See, whatever power you are giving to your line, it doesn't mean that entire power will be transmitted. In the due course of your entire reading of microwave or antenna, you will come to know all these things, because whatever power you are giving, it doesn't mean that entire power will be transmitted. There will be some losses, device loss will be there, noise loss will be there, then some other losses will be there, which tends to deteriorate the signal, even though the load and source are matched. That is practical scenario I am talking about. So next one is your return loss. Sorry, next one is your return loss. So return loss is nothing but the power reflected from the, and see, your reflection coefficient is a negative value, but your return loss is a positive value. Why? Because always your reflected energy will be less than your input energy. So this is return loss. The return loss is nothing but the power reflected by the transmission line is termed as return loss, that is EI by ER. Then insertion loss. If you have multiple transmission line, then what is the loss between one port to another port, or while inserting one port with the transmission line, what is the loss? That is basically represented as insertion loss. Basically, it refers the loss due to the transfer of energy between the transmission line. So it is nothing but ratio of E1 by E2. E1 is nothing but the energy received by the load when directly connected to the source without a transmission line, and same thing when it is connected with your transmission line. That is nothing but insertion loss. This insertion loss plays a very important role when you are making a MIMO antenna, multiple input, multiple output antennas. This plays a very important role there. Your insertion loss should be as low as possible, such that the spacing between antenna will be good if insertion loss is minimum. As a result of which, if insertion loss is less, the mutual coupling between the signals which antenna is transmitting, multiple antenna is transmitting, is less, as a result of which the capacity of the signal will increase. So these are the things, high level things, which you don't have to go into detail. So this is just for your information. Now, stub matching. So we have told you, like, there are impedance mismatch happening between a transmission line from load to source. Now, how to minimize this? So in order to minimize this, there are certain techniques. These techniques are called as stub matching. A stub is nothing but it is a short circuit line placed basically at the load or at some distance from the load. So basically stub. So there are different types of matching techniques. Please pay attention here. There are different types of matching technique from load to source. There may be active matching techniques, active impedance matching techniques. There may be passive impedance matching techniques. So if I talk about active impedance matching techniques, already you have studied those techniques in your analog devices. If I am not wrong, you have studied self-bias amplifier. Hello?
Yes, sir.
Self-biasing you have studied, current to base bias, emitter bias circuit, all these circuits you have, biasing circuits you have studied, no?
Yes, sir, we have studied.
Yeah, these are nothing but the matching technique, active matching techniques. So through these techniques, you can match active devices here like amplifier, power amplifiers and all. But there are certain passive impedance matching techniques which is used to match a transmission line. That is nothing but stub matching or lambda by 4 transmission line. So we'll see what are those basically. So stub is nothing but a short circuit line which is placed at a certain distance from the load. So there are two types of stub matching, single stub matching and double stub matching. In a single stub matching, you have a fixed length of short circuit wire which is placed at some distance from the load. So the disadvantage of single stub matching is that every time if you vary the frequency, since your stub is fixed, length of the stub is fixed. So if you are varying the frequency, that particular stub length cannot be varied, which tends it to limit for a particular frequency. But that is not the case with double stub matching. Here you have variable stub length, which you place at a certain distance from the load. You can see this diagram. So this is your single stub matching, short circuited stub, which is placed at a certain distance from the load, which is in parallel combination. So in this, if suppose the frequency is varying, the length of this particular stub is constant. So if frequency varies, obviously wavelength changes. But since you have a fixed line stub, this is used only for a particular frequency. So this particular demerit is removed by a double stub matching, where you have a variable 2 length stub. So as frequency varies, you can adjust this stub length and you can get particular impedance matching at those corresponding changed frequencies. So these are various impedance matching techniques which we utilize, passive impedance matching techniques which we utilize to match the impedance from load to source of a transmission line. So this was all about the basics of transmission lines and introduction to microwaves. So if you want, I will continue, or if you want, I will stop here. What do you say? So that we can have some interaction session. Shall I continue? Hello? Hello?
So next class.
Yeah, next class. Okay, now till first slide, till the basics of transmission line, which we have studied. If you have any doubt, any questions, we'll have some time. We'll just discuss.
Yes, sir. One doubt I have is, you said that VSWR is sometimes desirable. Sir, can you please elaborate on it?
See, VSWR is always sometimes desirable in the sense when you are making your antenna. So you cannot completely avoid VSWR, no? Correct, no? For a practical circuit. For a practical circuit, you cannot, what do you call? For a practical circuit, you cannot completely eliminate VSWR, no? If you are completely eliminating, that means what does it become? It becomes an ideal circuit. So obviously, it is sometimes desired for a good signal transmission, because practically, once you have certain reflection back from your receiver end, that means from your load, you have some amount of VSWR associated with it. Now, how this VSWR is close to 1 is a matter of concern. So in that, what we are doing, in transmission lines or in antenna design and all, we are extracting this VSWR in such a way that it is used for the representation of signal strength of a particular antenna. That means I told you practically it varies from 1 to 2. So ideally it should be 0, but practically we are tending it in such a way that it gives some desired value, and that desired value used to signify something which can be utilized from antenna perspective or from some device perspective point of view. So that's why I'm telling it is sometimes desired. Yeah. Any other question?
Thank you, sir.
Sir, what exactly does stubs do? It increases the impedance or decreases it?
No, it depends. No, see, it depends. Your load and source mismatch. You are applying a stub. Suppose you have a load impedance of, suppose, say higher, and you have a source impedance little bit smaller. Understood? So impedance, suppose you have 100 ohms load at your load, and your characteristic impedance or source is, suppose, say 50 ohm. So you have to come down to 50 ohm, no? So you have to design in such a way that it goes below. Now sometimes what will be, your source impedance will be high and your load impedance will be low. So in that scenario, generally it doesn't happen. Generally in that scenario, what you will use? You will use stub in such a manner that impedance variation can be done. So lambda, basically you are varying lambda. If lambda is varied, that means obviously impedance will be affected, no?
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir.
Yeah.
So, just to clarify a doubt regarding voltage standing wave ratio. So, after the reflection, as you discussed, that there is an interaction between the incident wave and the reflected wave, because of which there is a standing
interaction. Means it is getting reflected back from your load, which is not matched with the source.
Yeah. Okay.
So it is just opposite to that. Yeah.
So when we say that the V max upon V minimum value, so that is max and minimum of the reflected wave, right?
Yeah, V min of the reflected wave, V max of the transmitted wave.
Okay, yeah, sorry. Okay, thank you.
So, yes. Sir, you said reflection coefficient without modulus lies in the range of -1 to 1.
-1 to 1, yeah.
Yeah. But
Yeah.
but how can it be positive? Because
See,
reflected voltage is always negative, right? It'll be negative reflected voltage.
yeah, it has some magnitude and it has phase. E to the power of j theta minus j theta it is having.
Okay. Fine.
Yeah. Any more questions? I hope I have made you understood in this tiring times, and hope all of you are safe at your home. Don't go out.
Sir, could you clarify one more time mod Vmax and mod Vmin? What exactly do they mean?
What, you leave Vmax mod you leave. That is just Vmax by Vmin. Maximum voltage of your transmitted signal divided by minimum voltage of your reflected signal.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you, sir.
Sir, so the minimum voltage will correspond to the reflected one, right? Because it will get
Reflected.
attenuated and then
Yeah.
it will get reflected.
Yes.
Not
Then
attenuated,
only
I'm
you will
sorry.
get maximum
Some get,
VSWR, standing wave pattern.
but neither of those voltages are related to the standing wave generated. It's just a side effect of interaction of both the waves.
It is just the interaction of both the waves when your load is not matched with the source. Okay. And when you are moving from load to source, not source to load.
But neither of these voltages are associated to that standing wave, right? It's just a side effect.
Yeah, you can say that.
Okay, sir.
I hope class is understanding. That's all I can do from this online classes. And it took a very long time for me to prepare the PPT. And don't worry for this notes and all PPTs and all. I'll share the PPTs when everything is complete. So no need to panic from where to study, where to do. Study whatever is there in my PPT as well as the books I mentioned. I have given maximum details. So if you want to refer book also, you can go and refer. As far as my lectures are concerned, I don't know about the portions which Vasant sir will be teaching. But as far as my portions are concerned, I'll make you understand in such a way that you don't require any other materials except what I'm teaching right now. Whether it is numericals, whether it is derivations or something like that. So don't panic, like please give notes. I have no notes, nothing. All the books I have made as open sources. So everything, whatever you want, you can go and download it. After the classes of a particular topic is over, I will share the PPTs with you. So don't make excuses that I don't have materials, I don't have this, I don't have that. And if you have any problem throughout the course, you let me know, whether it is antenna, whether it is microwave, anything. Whether I'm not teaching or other teacher is teaching, you can just let me know. Okay.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Shall we end the meeting?
Sir, I have a question.
Yeah.
So in VSWR, you said Vmin corresponds to the reflected wave. Yeah. And you also said that for a perfectly matched condition, S should be equal to 1. But then if for perfect matching, reflected wave is 0. So Vmin is 0, but S and then S tends to infinity. So it doesn't correlate. Both things are. You said that for a perfectly matched condition, S should be equal to 1.
S should be, yeah, equal to 1.
And you also said that Vmin corresponds to amplitude of the reflected wave. So for perfectly matched condition, Vmin equals 0.
You will have only one signal, no? There will be no back signal only, no?
Yeah, so S will go to tend to infinity if there is no back signal, according to the definition you gave.
No, this definition is coming from reflection coefficient. This is not my definition. This definition is coming from reflection coefficient. Now you have seen here, now you just see from reflection coefficient point of view. If your reflection coefficient, whatever the back power you are getting is perfectly 0, then what you will have reflection coefficient? You apply this particular formula.
That formula works, sir. That formula works. But the Vmax and Vmin you told us doesn't correspond to this formula is what I'm trying to say.
You are telling that Vmin is 0, that means it is infinity.
Yeah. So I'm saying Vmin is
just
not
a represent. It is just a representation. Basically, we take entire thing from reflection, because reflection coefficient and VSWR both are one or the other thing. So whenever we take into account, if you go through in detail, what do you call the practical aspects of things, we everything defined from reflection coefficient point of view. From there, practically we derive this particular formula, which is well established. If your reflection coefficient is 0, you will get maximum allowable VSWR. That is one. If your perfect matching condition is not established, you will have 0, infinity signal strength. This is just a representation. So how your waves are being transferred from your source to your receiver. This is just a representation like this. This is showing the wave pattern from here to here, from here to here. It's just a representation how standing waves will be appearing over a particular device or a network.
Sir, but then the both of these should agree with each other, right?
Yeah.
They aren't. That's what I'm saying.
Okay.
The formula below works, but the formula above doesn't.
Actually,
According
formula
to
is the correct formula, which is established practically for consideration of your VSWR. Yeah. So anything you have received from college regarding opening of college or how exams and all will be conducted?
Not yet, sir. They've just given us the plan till September, August and September.
Okay. Okay, fine. And tell your friends, CRs, those who have not been added already. I have added and I have invited someone. And if anyone who is not added, please just message their learner ID or registration number. I'll add them. Okay.
Sure, sir.
Okay. Okay, then we'll leave. It's already here too much cloudy. Okay. Bye. Take care.
Thank you, sir. Take care.
Thank you, sir.
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 Sure.